What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in. It's 1TS Daily, live right here at One True Sports. How's it going? I'm your host, Zack Heydorn from Brass Ring Media and Sports Illustrated. What's going on? Thanks for being here. Thanks for pressing play on the show. Interesting show today. Probably going to be a little bit shorter than usual just because the week in wrestling has been so off. Normally, we have like a show to like review or preview based on, the previous night's activity, but today we don't have that. We don't have that because AEW Dynamite aired on Wednesday or Tuesday instead of last night. So we have a bit of an open forum, if you will, to discuss a lot of stuff. And I think that's going to be fun to do. But we don't have like that big show review, which is sad. It's sad. What did everybody do last night without AEW Dynamite on? Did you watch baseball? Did you catch up on a Netflix show? Did you read a book? That's a possibility. Free night for all you wrestling fans out there. But let's take care of some business here first. This is 1TS Daily, live at One True Sport. We're live here every morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, to talk to you about the news of the day in pro wrestling and run it down. What are those dirt sheets talking about? What is happening from a show perspective? What big television deals are in the works? We talk about it all. So with that said, thanks for being here. If you're listening and watching on YouTube, hello. Make sure that you hit like on the video. Helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. So I thank you for that. Also, if you're listening on Twitter, you can do the same thing. Like the post. And again, it helps us get in front of more eyes and appreciate you being here. Of course, thank you to our members who may be listening on their podcast apps. Thank you in advance for that. We really appreciate that. You can download our show as a podcast as a member of One True Sport. And to do that, you can become a member at onetruesport.com. We've got 3 different membership tiers that you can take advantage of, all of which involve getting this show as an audio podcast, but also give you access to big-time pro wrestling talent from the past, including RVD and Kurt Angle and Arn Anderson and Medusa and more. Lance Archer, lots and lots. So it's great. Give it a go. onetruesport.com is where you do that. Cool. I do have the chat open. Live chat's open. We got people filling in right now. Let's pull up Anthony's chat here. Anthony says, "Hi, what's going on, Anthony? Thanks for coming in. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you being here live. Always fun to have a live crowd here. Keep that stuff coming. If you have questions or topics that you want to get to, today would be the day to do it. We don't have, as I said, that kind of anchor segment on the show. So we can kind of go with where you want to go with it. So drop in your comments, your questions, and we'll get them here. If you want to send us a super chat, of course, that's appreciated. Any contribution amount helps us out greatly. And of course, you can do that just right in the live chat. And we will make sure to bump that up. And we will read that first and foremost and get to it right away before anything else comes in. So you get priority if you send in a super chat question or comment. So let's get rolling here with the agenda. So what I think we're going to do is we are going to take a quick preview of the TNA Impact show that's happening tonight on television. I also want to run down the AEW media call that Tony Khan did with the wrestling media yesterday ahead of WrestleDream. Some pretty insightful stuff there. So we'll run that down and use those as a bunch of talking points. And then, of course, any other questions and comments that come in the chat, we'll make sure to get to those as well. And Anthony has one, so we'll start off there. Anthony says here, Zach, when it comes to the storyline with the purveyors of violence, besides what most fans are thinking, what other person would make the biggest impact if they reveal themselves as the leader of the group? Man, this is an awesome question, Anthony. I love this. So by purveyors of violence, you mean Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Pac on AEW. And by what fans most are thinking, I think you mean Shane McMahon, because he has been, loosely tied to this story, not from a perspective of like, oh, there's clear cut, detail or clear cut teases that allude to Shane being involved. It's just people connecting dots, that may or may not be there. But as far as who would make the biggest impact if they reveal themselves as the leader of the group, I mean, biggest impact? Like I'll answer this question like in a silly way. I think the biggest initial impact would be like, and okay, let me see. The biggest impact short term and the biggest impact that absolutely won't happen. So this is totally not realistic, but Vince McMahon, I think, would be the biggest impact if that were to happen. That would be the biggest for a little while anyway, and then I think it would fizzle greatly. But I think that would be the biggest impact, but totally unreasonable and a bad answer because it's just not going to happen. So with that said, what other person that could be a really big impact? I mean, I think, unfortunately, I guess I will toss a name out there in a second here, but I think that any kind of leader of the group kind of, in a way, like dilutes that group in that story, because you don't have there's not any great names out there to come in and do that. I think like the best person to be revealed as the leader of this group is Jon Moxley. Like, I think he's like the guy. And I think it makes most sense for him to kind of be this unhinged leader. Now that's not what they're building. But I just think if you bring in like somebody on top of him, doesn't that like kind of neuter the Jon Moxley character a little bit? Like, wait a minute, Jon Moxley's taking orders from somebody? Like, I don't know. That just doesn't seem that just doesn't seem like reasonable and like really in line with the Jon Moxley character. So to me, I think like the biggest impact overall would just be that it's Mox. That's Mox pulling the strings, that it's Mox, at this higher level. Now, again, they're not going for that. They're not going for that. Clearly, there's something else at play here. And I think that the other person that could make a big impact here is if it were Tony Khan. I think that could be interesting. I think that would get people talking the most. They'd really have to work hard to like connect dots on, okay, like there's bigger things going on here. Moxley has said that. It's not your company anymore. Moxley has said that. Like, how do you tie that back to Tony Khan? I don't know. But I think he'd be like an interesting name, again, short term, to throw out there as somebody that could be impactful. Anthony in the chat here says Taz. It could be. But again, Taz, like he's an announcer, So I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, he'd be fine, but I don't know that he's like more impactful of a leader than Jon Moxley would be. And that's really the question that you're answering. Like, who can come in and lead Jon Moxley? And that is a short list. Like, I don't even know if Shane can be on that list, right? Same thing with Tony Khan. That's why I think it's a bit of a rough situation. But that's my answer, Anthony, and hopefully I articulated it well. Good question, really good question, and good topic to start us off. Thank you. All right, let's get to this media call. And ProWrestling.net has an awesome write-up on this on the website. Jason Powell runs the site and compiled like really, really good like talking points on on what was discussed. And I'm just going to use this to kind of like drive through, the call and what was talked about. So first, Tony Khan was asked about a roster split, and Tony said that it was a good idea, interesting thought, but way too soon to say whether or not he is or isn't going to do it. But he did say he might consider it. I think that this is a must for Collision and for Dynamite going forward. Like, to me, it's just, how do you differentiate the two shows? Like, how do you make one show not the B show? Well, you have talent exclusive to that, and that's the only way you can see them. I mean, it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy with your second show. If you're not going to put anybody on the second show that people want to see and that people have to go to see, it becomes a B show. It becomes the two show. So I think that, he's got to consider it, yes, but he's got to go with it. And I don't know what the detriment would be at this point. Yeah, I mean, look, it would take a lot more organization. It would take a lot to balance those two rosters out. You'd have to very much focus on creating, new stars that are current mid-card folks. It would take a lot, but I think long term, like, that's a good trajectory to go on, to make people have to watch both your shows. Tony Khan then addressed the reports and news that Warner Brothers Discovery has an equity stake in AEW. Tony didn't really get into much as an answer. He said that he holds the vast majority of the shares and he is the sole voting owner of the company, and that he controls 100% of the business. So it's an answer that was a non-answer. I mean, I think pretty clear at this point that Warner Brothers Discovery does have some kind of stake in AEW. It was reported over the last couple of days that AEW's parent company is a LLC that the Khans own, and in that report, it states that no other outside corporate entity has more than 10% stake in AEW. So does that mean like Warner Brothers Discovery has some? Yeah, probably. I think it probably does. But Tony doesn't get into it too much here as that comes about. Tony then talks about Bryan Danielson and like what his role would be, when he does retire, like fully, when that in-ring career is finished. And then just, boy, like Tony Khan just raved about Bryan Danielson. And why wouldn't he, right? I mean, that's one of the best gets that he has, that he's gotten, from a talent perspective. I mean, imagine AEW without Bryan Danielson. Like, goodness gracious, all those matches, that wouldn't have happened, that kind of like have helped define what AEW is, for better or worse. It has. And, Danielson's a part of that, and I think Danielson's a loyal guy. I think that, he played a part, in building the future of the company. So I think he's always going to have a place in AEW. Tony Khan didn't answer the question that way, but I think he will, whether that's in ring or behind the scenes or, coaching or anything, whatever he wants to do. Tony speaks highly of him enough where you got to think that, like, hey, it's pretty much an open door for him. From there, Tony Khan talked about signing Daniel Garcia again, and said he understood why Daniel Garcia wanted to take time to make a big decision. He said that he considers Garcia a homegrown star and, was happy to extend him. And so he confirms the contract extension here with this. And Daniel Garcia is going to be in AEW for a long time. I like Danny Garcia. I do. But here's the deal. It's all in the follow-up. You signed him. You have him coming back. He's like out there saying that he's gone this journey now to win a championship. But those words are only as good as what happens to him from a booking perspective. And that's always been the issue with Danny Garcia. Like, booked to beat the nobodies, but he has never had like that big signature win on a big stage. Like, he hasn't had like the book behind him and gotten like a real push in that regard. And so now, now that he's signed, now that Tony Khan has made, a bit of a bit of investment in them, or in him, excuse me, like, you got to go with him. You got to go with him. You got to put the story behind him. You got to put a narrative behind him. You got to put that book behind him. And we'll see. We'll see if that happens or not. It hasn't happened up till this point, but none of it matters if you don't have that push that goes with it. If you want Danny Garcia to be something. All right. Tony Khan then talked about the new TV deal and whether or not the new deal would lead to other talents appearing more consistently. Like this week alone, this was Dominic D'Angelo's question from One True Sport, our guy. And he talked about Lance Archer being there. He talked about Jake Roberts being back, Roosh. And Tony Khan says that he always cared about talent appearing more consistently. Really? Really? I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess, but it doesn't seem like that sometimes. And Tony Khan said basically in the end, he feels everyone involved in what happened on Wednesday with the big trade, Lance Archer for Roosh, says that he thinks everybody involved there is going to be better for it. Time will tell. I'll believe it when I see it, Mr. Tony Khan. But in the end, Tony Khan said that the TV deal gives the company security and the platform to plan long term. That's the key line in this answer. That is the key line of the answer. Long-term planning. You can't build stars booking like on a whim, week to week only. You just can't. You just can't do it. You have to have some type of roadmap for who you want to get where. And to this point, it just doesn't seem that Tony Khan has had that. And hopefully now he's right. Hopefully that now you have this lockdown, you can move forward and start planning to really make some of these stars. Maybe Danny Garcia is a benefactor of that. Maybe it is somebody like Roosh. I don't know. But it's key that he's looking at it that way because he really needs to. Tony Khan talked about ROH next and how it was not included in the Warner Brothers Discovery deal and whether or not they're still looking to get a deal. Khan said that according to, once again, this is from a report at ProWrestling.net and Jason Powell. He said he's a big ROH fan and he likes the show. He also talked, like Tony does, about past matches in ROH. He talked about Kenny Kobashi versus Samoa Joe, and then just basically falling in love with pro wrestling. Khan admits that it's not part of the deal, and he just hopes that it is part of the future and that it leaves them open to opportunities, in the future. So who knows? Tony says ROH is still a major priority, and the international rights to that show are still out and about to be bid on in many countries. So, I mean, I don't know, guys. It's not. You don't need to save every nostalgia thing that you once loved. The best thing that like ROH's legacy lives on in ROH or in AEW. Like that really is. That's the promotion. That's the level up for ROH. I mean, AEW, like in a weird way, like it helped kill ROH because it took a lot of what ROH does and did it better and did it on a bigger level. And that's okay. Like, I think the legacy of ROH is that it helped pave the way for AEW to exist. And I don't think there's anything wrong with treating it that way and just but ending it also. ROH does not serve a purpose right now, in the wrestling space. It's matches just to have matches. Talent appear everywhere. There's no reason to watch that show. You can see their world champion on Dynamite. You can see the world champion on pay-per-view. It just doesn't matter anymore. So give it up. Let it go. So then Tony Khan talked about the pay-per-view model for next year and Max. He pretty much said nothing. He said, well, he didn't say nothing. He said that he doesn't want to reveal details ahead of when Warner Brothers Discovery wants to. And so he really left it at that and didn't really get into much. But that, that's going to be a thing. That's going to be happening next year. and more to come on that. But he just said that everybody is happy with the deal that they cut, and that's that. Not, a non-answer, but a reasonable non-answer. Like he's not going to reveal details like that just because, I mean, he's working with a partner and they want to, make a big business move when they announce that. So, so be it. Made total sense to me not to reveal that. And then he talked a lot about the women's division. And he said he was looking forward to the women's match at WrestleDream. He talked about Britt Baker's illness and her inability to be at Dynamite this week. He really, really put Baker over, and talked about her being a huge part of the division and liked her personality. I don't know. I understand that Tony Khan thinks that way. And I understand that he feels that way about Britt Baker. I don't know what Britt Baker's future is in the AEW women's division anymore. It just seems like in some ways that division has passed her by, right? Like there's just so much talent. There's so many news stories to be told. She's not around all that often for whatever reason. Like she had some very serious health issues, and that I'm glad she's been able to overcome. But it just doesn't change the reality that like there are other avenues to go down. You've kind of been there, done that with Britt Baker. So either she has to find like some kind of refresh to who she is to get back in that mix, or like I think she's going to just kind of be floundering around. So I do get Tony Khan like talking her up, but at the same time, I just don't know what the future is for her. It seems like she really is in need of a refresh. So we'll see. We'll see. That was that. He thanked everybody and said everybody should be excited for WrestleDream, and there you go. So that was the Tony Khan media call. Interesting stuff. I thought the media did a nice job asking the right questions, and I think he gave some good answers, or the answers that he could give. I think we're good and we're fair. Let's go to the chat here. Anthony's back with a question here and a comment. Anthony says, Zach, I've been seeing this from the beginning. This whole thing with Darby is setting him up to join the Purveyors of Violence because he finally realizes Tony doesn't really believe in him. Yeah, I don't think so. I think in the end, you may see Darby as the benefactor of the Purveyors of Violence storyline going up against Purveyors of Violence. I think that they're setting up a long-term arc with Darby and Mox, where Darby is the guy to beat Mox in the end. I think that there's a better chance of seeing that as your storyline going into next year. So that's what I'd say to that. Okay, that was fun going through that. Let's talk the TNA show tonight. They have obviously their regular Thursday night programming, and the card is as follows: Matt and Jeff Hardy. They are going to face ABC, Ace Austin, and Chris Bay. We've got Josh Alexander against Eric Young. Jordan Grace will team with Masha Slamovich, Sol Ruka from NXT to face Wendy Chu from NXT, Rosemary, and Tasha Steelz. Leanne Slater is going to face Jason Hotch and Laredo Kid, and the winner gets a shot at the X Division title. Nick Nemeth, who is the TNA World Champion, is going to speak, and Mike Santana, who is a top talent on the show, is also going to speak. So big show. Bound for Glory, the biggest TNA show of the year, is right around the corner, and so these shows have to deliver. And I think they got a big one here. Curious to see, how I like Sol Ruka being in the mix on NXT with talent like Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich. I think that's going to help her long term. She's an important like future potential face of WWE. So I like that she's kind of out and about, like getting experience elsewhere. I think it's good for her to do that, and she delivers. And she's grown a lot in the last however however many years she's been there. So good move for WWE. So that's Impact. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. Guys, okay, we'll wrap up there. Thanks so much to everybody who pressed play. Anthony, thanks so much for your questions and your comments in the chat. Always appreciate you, man. Hopefully you can come back tomorrow and join us live, as should everybody else. Tomorrow, 11 Eastern, right here on One True Sport, we will do our full AEW WrestleDream preview, our preview episode before Saturday's event. So don't miss it. Put a calendar invite in your work calendar so you can, get here and join us. Join us to preview the big pay-per-view. That is tomorrow at 11 Eastern. You can check out more of my work at Brass Ring Media. Obviously, Brass Ring Media is my shop with my team, and we our shtick is kind of just covering the wrestling industry long form. And so we did a long form preview of WrestleDream on yesterday's show. Check that out. It's up on our YouTube channel now. You can get it for free. You can also download our Brass Ring Media podcasts for free too, wherever you get your podcasts. So check that out. And also, while you're at it, subscribe to our Substack newsletter that goes out every day with some type of content, whether it's a show review or editorial or feature. It's there, and you can check that out right now for free. You can also check out my work at Sports Illustrated. I started writing for Sports Illustrated on Monday. Been an absolute blast. We have a preview of WrestleDream up there too. You can check that out on our YouTube channel. But head over there and check out the written work that I'm doing there. Cool. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me today. Have a wonderful, wonderful Thursday, and I will catch you guys tomorrow right here at 1TS Daily live on One True Sport. I'm Zack Heydorn. See ya.